Hi, Dr. Coakley. It's Andy Zwolski, and then Dawn is my videographer for right now.
Hi.
This is going to be the maps, the 10% of the rest of the grade for the class that we're taking right now. I'll be doing a couple maps, and Dawn's just going to be videoing, and then after that, I'm just going to submit copies of these maps along with a link to the video. I think we're going to try YouTube. Okay? So I'm going to start real quick, okay? Dawn's going to come sit. Okay, first map we're going to draw is going to be Israel, but I'm going to do a couple different ones in different ages of the history of Israel. Okay, and let me see that there. Do this here, and I'll describe what I'm doing in just a second. All right. First thing I'm going to talk about is Israel, before Israel was Israel. This is essentially the coastline of the Mediterranean Sea. This is the Dead Sea, or the Salt Sea. This is the Sea of Galilee. You'll see the detail of this when I submit these to you. Okay. So, through here, this area here, I know it's very thin, but I'm making it thin on purpose, is the Jordan River Valley, also called the Rift Valley too, which extends down actually into Africa too, and extends upward as well. Initially, Israel wasn't a country, wasn't a nation. It was part of Egypt, which was here. And they were actually part of a place called Goshen, which was actually part of the Nile River Valley. We know from Scripture that actually the Pharaoh who had welcomed Joseph had welcomed into Goshen, which was actually one of the best places and most arid places within, well, actually more fertile places within Israel itself. They left Goshen, and that's the story of Exodus itself, and they ended up wandering in the wilderness. The wilderness being what we consider right now to be part of the Sinai Peninsula. After about a year or so of wandering, maybe a little bit less, there was a place called Kadesh Barnea, which was a place where God instructed them that it was now time for them to go into the Promised Land. And the Promised Land had been something that had been promised to both Abraham, Isaac, as well as Jacob too. And we can look back through Genesis, especially Genesis 17 or so, and 15 and 17, and we can see what the land that was actually promised to Joseph was. It's supposed to be the Euphrates, bounded on the north, and also a little bit of the east. It was supposed to be the Mediterranean Sea. It was also supposed to be the river of Egypt, which we're not exactly sure if that was just a smaller river or if it was actually the Nile River itself, but a lot of current scholars think that it's actually a smaller river and not necessarily the Nile. But they were supposed to go into the Promised Land. They sent spies up into the Promised Land itself, only two, Caleb and Joshua came back saying, yes, let's go take it, but the other the other spies themselves said, no, it wasn't time. So the entire nation of Israel at that time that was wandering in the desert at the moment decided that they weren't going to go. And as a result of that, they were now assigned to another 38 some odd years of wandering actually in the wilderness itself. So it came to a point where at the end of that 38 years, and I'll put these places on again, or these cities again, they came to a point where they were encamped on the east side of the Jordan River. This is the Jordan River here. They were overlooking the city of Jericho, and they had the Promised Land in front of them. At that time, they had already encountered the Edomites and also the Moabites not always did they have a welcome reception from these people. The Ammonites as well. And then also too, way up here, up towards Galilee area, there were also Bashan, and then also the Arameans as well. Most of Canaan was this area here. I'm gonna have to get another pen. Most of Canaan was here. And we had the Philistines, which were roughly along the coastal plain of this area. And up here, we had all these other peoples that were actually kind of surrounding the area in loose tribes and loose nations as well. So that's the first drawing. The second drawing is that God promised this promised land to them, and I'm going to draw out roughly where the tribes of Israel were given their allotment. Once again, we have the Jordan River, Sea of Galilee, the Dead Sea, and what will be in the future, Jerusalem, will in the future be their capital. That was actually part of the area where the tribe of Benjamin was given. The tribe of Dan was given an allotment here. The tribe of Ephraim was given an allotment there. This was still Philistia. Over here, we actually had Judea, of which there was a smaller portion of Judea, which was given to Simeon. And then we also had on the other side of the Jordan River, we actually had 3 allotments as well. One of the allotments was for Manasseh, which actually had an area both to the east and west of the Jordan River. So that's Manasseh. And we also had Gad, which was right here. And then we also had up north, we had a large tribe of Asher, which actually went into the area where Lebanon was at. We also had a smaller area here of Issachar, and another one of Zebulun. And then here we had a large area that was assigned to Naphtali. So those were the tribes. I think I'm missing one here. I'm going to have to think about which one that was. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. No, I got them. Okay. So that was the second. That's what they were assigned to. So here, going back here, in this area they were encamped on the other side of the Jordan River with Joshua. Moses told them to go into the Promised Land. Their first conquest, or first foray, was going to be across the Jordan River into Jericho itself. And this is what the land was supposed to look like, with all the divisions and all as far as where the tribes were actually assigned. So this last one that I'm going to draw is a combination of ancient cities that were established within the tribes of Israel. And some prominent features, too, as far as their history was concerned. All right, Dead Sea again. Sea of Galilee. Jordan River, which continued on up into the headwaters and terminated down here in the Dead Sea. Okay. So this is going to be somewhat random. And Jericho is where we left off. It's just on the west side of the Jordan River, where the tribes started here, and they moved to conquer Canaan, first stopping in Jericho itself. We do know now that there's 3 different Jerichos: the ancient Jericho, Jericho of Jesus' time, and then the modern Jericho as well. David had established Jerusalem as the capital. Again, that was part of the tribe of Benjamin. But other places that were local to Jerusalem itself, just a few miles away, was Bethlehem. And that's, of course, where Jesus was born. We also have Emmaus. We also have Shechem, which was actually it's part of now the modern West Bank. We also have Shechem or Shiloh, which was actually the capital of Israel for a while before Jerusalem became its capital. Other places of prominence too later on was Masada. Some students of the Bible think that this could be a place that was used multiple times actually by the Israelites, including David at times, in order to fortify themselves from attackers. There's also En-Gedi, where we know that David had the opportunity to kill Saul, but he didn't. Let me see here, Jericho, Jerusalem. We also have 2 different possibilities for Bethany, both on the east and west side of the Jordan River. We know that John the Baptist had some doings in Bethany as well. And we do think also there's 2 possible sites where he might have been doing his baptisms. Some think it might have been here near Jericho, but also too, there's a northern possibility too near the Sea of Galilee, where actually our group actually did the baptisms were more on this site here. Other places of prominence too, we have Gaza, the city of Gaza, which later we'll talk about the Gaza Strip too. Somewhere in this region there was a place called Gath. Also too, right near this area was Ziklag, which was the first place where David actually was able to become king and start to rule part of Israel before he united the kingdom, which has actually been in the news very recently. We also have Beersheba and Sderot, which has also been in the news, which has been a target of many attacks as far as rockets recently. But also too, we have Jerusalem here. We have Jaffa, which is now part of present-day Tel Aviv. It's essentially kind of been absorbed by Tel Aviv itself. We have we have Caesarea. We have Mount Carmel over here, where Elijah dueled with the priests of Baal, quite decisively winning that encounter. We have Beth Shean. Or later on, it was Nissus Scythopolis, where Saul's body was actually hung after he was defeated at Mount Tabor. And Mount Gilboa, where battles between Saul and the Philistines ended up with Saul's demise, unfortunately. We also have Megiddo, which was a site of quite a few battles throughout both ancient times that we read about in Scripture, as well as even since Jesus' time. And also, too, is going to be where Revelation talks about the final battle between forces of good and evil, so to speak, and God's people and also forces of Satan in the final days. In this area here was the Jezreel Valley. Which is where those armies are going to gather, but it's also been a key transition point from migration as well as commerce for thousands of years, actually from the north, from the east, and from the north and the south. And it's always been passed through the Jezreel Valley itself. And Jesus actually grew up with the Jezreel Valley in his back door, Nazareth being right here. Akko, or Acre, was here. We know that Jesus likely spent some time there, as well as Tyre, and then Sidon, which are now both of these part of present-day Lebanon. And he also made his way over to Caesarea Philippi, which was very near to Tel Dan, where the tribe of Dan itself actually decided to migrate up into that area, looking for a better allotment of land. They didn't think God had a good enough assignment for them. Also in this area too was the ancient city of Laish, where Abram had to go and actually rescue his nephew who had been taken captive. And coming back down to the Sea of Galilee, there were quite a few locations here. We have Capernaum itself. We also have Bethsaida. We also have Magdala. And then we also have a larger modern city right now of Tiberias. And we have Chorazin, which rejected Jesus and his teachings, and he speaks about that in Luke. And here we also have Hatzor. And then, of course, we have the headwaters up over here. Up in this area here, we have Mount Hermon, one of the largest, in fact, the largest mountain in the entire area, which is actually the source of all of the fresh water, actually, for Israel in the Galilee area. And over here, this is the Golan area itself. So, let me see here. Other things. Oh, right near Jericho, you also have Gilgal. This was actually the base of operations for the Israelites as they conquered Canaan, and before it became a nation united under David for the first time. So we're going to talk one more little map. We're going to talk about some of modern Israel right now. We have Egypt over here. And the Dead Sea once again. We have the Sea of Galilee here. We have the Jordan River. Then we have, going this way, we have the border with the country now modern-day Jordan, which still extends up over here as well. We have this area here where Syria, present day, used to occupy this land. This is now the Golan Heights. Now part of Israel and used as a protective buffer against Syria. But Syria still is not quite necessarily friendly to Israel presently. Up on the northern border, we have Lebanon. We have modern-day Haifa, a very large port city. We have Netanya here, which was a 20th century creation. Here we have Tel Aviv, which within the 20th century had grown from a very small location near where Jaffa was at to now the largest city in Israel. We now have over here the Gaza Strip. And there is Gaza City still. And we have, of course, Jericho, modern-day Jericho. We have Jerusalem. Although now it's part of Israel, we have a large area that's still designated and recognized by the UN as something called the West Bank, referring to the West Bank of the Jordan River. Now part of Israel, but formerly it was part of Jordan. But this was taken by the Israelis in the Six-Day War in 1967, as was the Golan Heights. There's some areas within Jerusalem itself, within the West Bank, which are very significant biblically. We have Hebron, which is where the patriarchs were actually buried. And we also have Bethlehem, which is actually within the West Bank right now, too. Nablus is within the West Bank also. And let me see what else, the headwaters of the Jordan here. What else can I speak of significance here? Yeah, I think that's about it for right now. So, I could go over the history of the modern-day 20th century wars that Israel had to survive in order to keep its existence, but I think we're Mediterranean. But I think we've done quite a few things here. So let me see if there's anything else I want to point out. They do think Cana, modern-day Cana, might have actually been Cana, or Jesus actually turned water into wine. That's uncertain, but one of the things that archaeologists theorize about. And let me see, that, and that. I think we're done. Okay. So Don's been my videographer. I'll send these copies to you. I'll scan them and send them to you too, as well as a link to the YouTube video of this, just proof that I actually wrote these down, so you don't even have to watch it, but at least you'll see me actually doing this, you know, in person. And Dawn and I do want to extend to you, Dr. Coakley, and your wife sometime this next month, hopefully, that we can get together and maybe have the honor of your presence and share a meal with you all, take you out to dinner. So let us know what might work for you. We're going to be traveling for a little bit of August, but thank you for helping to facilitate this course for me. And also, too, thank you very much for being part of our experience in Israel for the first time. We had just a wonderful time, and we can't wait to get back. Okay.
Bye.